More than a horse today, catching up about speeding Spur, and I'm rapt to have Josh Dickey joining me all the way from New Zealand. Josh, it's a different world we're in, and do things a little bit differently, but I like promoting horses and I love promoting Woodlands, and I like the fact that you've got the Woodlands jacket on, and I think you've got a picture of speeding Spur up behind you as well.
Yeah, no, that's one of his group ones. Got a few of them in the house here, so it's always good to look at them sometimes. And Woodlands have earned the jacket. They're a great sponsor, not only for us, they've been good clients with us to our stable, but for me personally as a driver, they've sponsored me the last 3 or 4 years and made sure that I've been very well looked after.
Makes a little bit of a difference when you can get that sort of support too, doesn't it?
Well, it does because there are a lot of expenses in the driving sense, and they always they make sure that I've got what I need every year, and they do look after us a lot. And look, they're a major sponsor of our sport, so I'm more than happy to wear their name around with me. And as I say, they've been great to me, so I think it's the least I could do.
They've been very good to me as well. More Than a Horse is designed to promote the horse, I suppose, in a different light. We could turn around and say about how many Group 1s he won, and we'll talk about the hat in a minute because I know it's got a little bit of sentimental value, that race and all the rest. But my dealings with Mark Hughes and Woodlands, this horse is pretty special to the whole Woodlands family as far as he was actually born on the place, and there was a photo recently put up on social media where now Pegasus Spur and his mother are both in the same paddock enjoying retirement.
Yeah, it's that photo when I got sent it. That's pretty cool, mate. It's great for people outside the sport to see that. Even when stallions finish their duties, they've still got a great retirement, and probably how fitting too that Peggy's retiring with a retired mare that she left his best son. So I think it's a pretty cool story to put a good light on our sport.
Absolutely, I think there's plenty of good lights, but yeah, I must admit, and the photo will have gone up. I'll make sure of that it's gone up over the top. When did you get Speeding Spur? When did you actually? I want to ask one other thing before I go there. What's his nickname? Because Mark Hughes referred.
Delboy.
Sorry.
Yeah. When he came to us, his name was Del. But when I was a kid, my dad always made sure that I watched only Fools and Horses with him. So anyone that's familiar with that show will understand the main character in there was Del Boy, and so it went from Del to Del Boy, and it's just always stuck with him because it's quite a fitting name for the horse.
So that was fine. I asked Mark about it one day, and he said, when I'm talking to you one day, make sure I ask you about it. So I thought there was a little bit more in it, but it's just one of your favourite TV shows. When did you guys? Because at the time, Dad was the trainer, I think, of him. But when did you guys come to get Dell?
And actually, when we moved to Rossland, I'd actually moved here probably 6 or 8 weeks before Dad had moved up here. And it was quite funny how things happen sometimes. But I was actually leaving the house one particular day, and Kevin Foley, he was the stud manager at the time, he pulled up in the driveway and he asked if we'd be interested in taking this horse. He'd just been broken in. And I was actually leaving to go away for the weekend, and I said, well, that'll be fine, Kev, but we'll grab him on Monday. And anyway, so I started working this horse. I was only on my own. I had probably 4 or 5 before Dad moved up with the rest of the team, and he was one of them. So we got a little prep with him there, and it's funny how things work out. But I think when we moved to Rosslands, it was probably a big push for Woodlands to give us a horse, and Charlie Roberts had always promised us a trotter at the time, and him and Andrew made the decision that we're able to train the horse.
It's a late Charlie Roberts also, so we might touch on that a little bit later on. But so it was just purely a chance thing that you were leaving, or do you think you still would have been offered the horse if you hadn't run into him as you were driving out the driveway?
Well, I think, Kev was, he'd sort of put our name forward, and I think we might have caught up if I hadn't been there. But Kev was adamant that we could take him, and that, and as I say, it did come from not only Kevin but Andrew and Charlie as well. So I guess I do believe in things like fate, and it's one of those things that was meant to be, I guess.
Do you reckon if Dad had a full team, would you have jumped at him? Like if it was a couple of weeks later and Dad had a full team of horses there, would you still have taken him?
Well, yeah, 100%, because with Woodlands being as big as they are, and if we could grab one of their horses and try and do a job with them, that was our goal. If we can try and attract clients like that, and even if we were full, we would have found room for them. So look, I'm glad how it worked out. And, as I say, that small prep that I did with them before Dad had moved up here to Auckland, the rest is sort of history after that, I suppose.
What was he like as a young horse? Because I was a bit surprised when I looked up his record just there before. But as a young horse, what sort of horse was he?
He's very quiet, probably a bit laid back, a bit too laid back, really. I had Kevin come out and watched him work, actually, when I had him for that small prep. And it wasn't embarrassing or nothing, but he was just so lazy. It sort of couldn't get out of first gear sometimes, but just so cruisy. But you probably thought at that early stage he was probably a bit weak, but as time got on, he just kept developing.
You said to me there just before when we were going to start this, he only had the 6 starts as a 2-year-old, and he went terrific. He won 1, a second, and 2/3. He won his first start, but then you took on some of the better horses on the other islands. Is that how I read it?
Yeah, he was just one of them horses as a 2-year-old. He always felt okay, but everything you threw at him, he just handled it and got a bit better. And the one thing that happened to him, I think we had him in for a second prep, and he got a bad virus. It was so bad that he wasn't allowed to leave the farm, but he had to be segregated on his own. He was stuck here for a month, and then they got him out to Woodlands there for a spell. And when he come back, we thought we might just start pushing him along a bit, and we'll just see how he handles it. And every bit of work we give him, he just kept getting better and better, and to the point where we're like, well, we might as well give him a trial, right now. So we did, and at the trials, he just got better and better and better, and we finally took him to the races. And I'm not sure if it was a non-tote one night, but I think I ran second. But they run home in 28 flat off the front, and I got beat the nose, and he come from off the speed, and it was just really impressive, So when he won at Cambridge, we thought probably the good thing to do for the horse would be, put him on a truck, send him to Christchurch, and hopefully that we can, get the horse to grow up mentally, and nothing like a triple way to do that.
His laid back manner, did that, you think, help him in handling that trip away, but also that trip away, did that sharpen him up with his laid back manner when he came back?
Well, it did, because when he raced down there, the 2-year-olds, the top ones at the time, they were just a bit too good for him. I think Prince Fearless was probably the best earlier on, and then Monbay was pretty sharp in that later part of the season. But when he came home from that trip, he had one race to go, which was the Jewels, and Dad and I noticed a significant change in the horse. He was just probably a bit more on his game, and I suppose that early prep, down there in Christchurch, I think made the horse really.
Because after that, then your 3-year-old career was pretty breathtaking, to say the least. He just sort of grew up after that, didn't he?
Well, he did, and I think, as I say, when he raced in the Jewels as a 2-year-old, I got knocked over around the last corner. I was getting a run up the running line. They were all sort of moving off the running line. I got a run up through them, and at the quarter, he was climbing through the bit. And anyway, I got knocked over, and I come in and I said to Dad, I don't think I'd have won it. I think I'd have run second or third. And so we sort of thought then that we might have a pretty handy horse, and he had a spell after that, and he just never looked back. He come back just a really strong 3-year-old, and it was quite an amazing transition, really.
Do you think that virus, obviously it set you back because you had to stop and isolate him as a young horse, but may have been a little bit of a blessing then as well for the longevity of his racing career?
Oh, I think so, yeah. It's probably how it panned out. It's not ideal when you have like a stack like that, but like he basically got left alone for 8 to 10 weeks, and he was getting fed and he was in good paddocks. But I think looking back at it now, I think probably a blessing in disguise.
He travelled to Australia as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, even 6-year-old. I think he kept coming backwards and forwards. Again, back to his laid-back nature and the way that he takes everything in. That obviously he must have took to it like a duck to water, because he was a regular on the plane.
Well, he was, and the IRT staff they all sort of knew him in the end, and even the Majestic truck drivers they always had a bit of fun taking him around because he was so quiet. I think that probably most of the success, I think, was down to, his attitude to probably not just racing, but, work life around the farm. It was quite hard to explain how much of a gentleman he actually was. He was just a terrific animal.
What was his greatest attribute for you? Not necessarily his best win or anything like, but what was the one part that endeared him to you?
Well, I suppose it's one of his best attributes. I just can't get past his attitude. What he'd do sometimes on the track, he'd just shake your head, and even sometimes when he'd get beat, he'd just still give you 120%. It's not something you get the feel of too often, and wheel drive horses that probably aren't performing that well, and when they're getting beat, they tend to throw the towel in. Whereas this fella, when the chips were down, he'd give you 110% every time,
and still wouldn't throw the towel in.
He'd just never give up. Yeah, it was it's an amazing feeling, and like his dad's been training sort of 30 odd years now, and he said he'll never come across a horse that has the guts of this horse.
What was his? I suppose you can ask people their best win. I'm tipping it's not going to be the hat that you've got on there as such, and we'll get to that. But as a young horse, what 2, 3, 4-year-old, what was his best win from your point of view? The one that you thought that's very satisfying.
Well, he obviously had a few, but as an early one, the one that got me, I think, as feel-wise, it was an amazing feeling when he won the Northern Derby. I think he pinged home 55 and a bit that night, and I never turned the stick on him. It was a crazy feeling. When he was sprinting around the last corner, I've never felt a try to sprint like that off a corner. That was pretty cool. And that, to me, that night, it really stood out like, well, this horse is pretty good. Although Bombay was sort of going good at the time, but he never really beat him. I don't think he beat him at all as a 3-year-old. So when he went to Australia, won the Southern Star, that was a terrific race to win. And you can't get past a race like that. Last time they had the Elite Lot format, and as a 4-year-old trotter, he got that job done. And of course, the Road Cup probably the best one for ours is a sentimental race. It was a terrific win, 2-mile race.
We'll look after the Pride's Great Southern Star. That was one of the races I did want to talk to you about. He got beat in his heat. For a lot of people that may be watching this and aren't aware, it actually goes back to that format. I think next season after January, I think. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it was a terrific race. It brought a lot of, I suppose, attention to the whole race meeting in a way, because you had to go out and race in your heat. I think they were second and third races on the night, and then it was the second last race on the night as well, was the final. And there was a lot going on. As a 4-year-old taking on some of those older horses, and you get beat in the heat, how do you handle that in between, and how did he handle that in between? Like, because it's the only time of the year they actually do that.
Yeah, it's a funny race for that sort of thing, but when we were confident with the horse going over. At the time, Keystone Dell was pretty hard to beat. He beat us in the Grand Prix, I think it was about a month before that. But I think we drew outside the gate in the heat, and Dad and I discussed it that we've come this far. We sort of can't afford any bad luck, so we took the risk and just let him roll off the gate. I was never going to find the front. Keystone Dell drew his handy, I think, and it was a bit unfortunate for us because I think they went 53, I think, or something like that, and I was cutting the breeze to trip. So after the race, it was a bit of a concern that he had such a hard run. But I think he only got beaten a neck or something like that. But when he, come off the track and that 2 hours in between, that recovery time, that was amazing. The vets, they checked him, I think, about an hour after, and they weren't actually allowed to tell us his heart scores or nothing like that, but they basically said to us that, they haven't seen one recover that quick. So that did help a bit.
This is brought to everyone by Woodlands, and I think that's going to be one of his greatest attributes by his heart. You keep saying about his attitude and the likes of the fact that he obviously, it still would have been stressful, because I'd imagine a horse like him, generally when you race him, you'd be trying to get him home as quickly as you can normally after a race meeting. So hanging around a bit longer, he might be half smelling a rat, but he just took it all in his stride.
Yeah, well, he did. He just called out that quick. It was like he sort of knew. He just relaxed and just got on with it. He didn't worry about it, nothing or nothing. He just carried on with the night. And I think thinking back to that, the barrier draw probably aided him a lot. Being a young horse, you're talking, Keystone Dell. Not sure how old he was at the time, but he was still going as good as he ever had. And a young 4-year-old, it's not easy. And that was our main concern going over there when you're tackling the big boys. We didn't have the age on our side, so we had to be a little bit careful there. And as I say, I think the barrier draw probably helped us a lot in the final.
But the sounds of things, he helped you a lot as well, because you were only a young range person, I suppose, driving against the big boys. You and Dad come up with a plan with a 4-year-old trotter, and I'm sure a lot of people would have queried it when he went forward and put him in the death. But must have been incredibly satisfying for all concerned, winning what ended up being the last of the Elite Lop style Great Southern Stars. It must have been a great thrill.
Oh yeah, when you win any Group 1, it's hard to explain that. But when you're talking major Grand Circuit races, yeah, it's sort of next level, And that particular race was pretty cool again, because you had, I think, Yannick Gingras, Corey Callahan, was one of the other American drivers out there with us, and so you had world-class drivers around us, and obviously trainers as well. The top trainers from Australia were there, and such a big stage. So when you have a win like that, it was just an amazing feeling.
Does the bond that you and Dell had, does that help you? Did that help you on that night? Like the fact that the pair of yous got along so well, like he was your mate?
Yeah. I suppose, we spent a lot of time together, but at the same time, Dad probably travelled with him probably the most, and I think getting him ready for, when I'd usually be back at home, he'd be away for weeks at a time. So probably a good team effort, I think, mate. He was probably everyone's mate here, really, the horse. He had a lot of fans and the staff working with us at the time. Everyone loved him.
It's an interesting little stat that he runs second in his next 2 Great Southern Stars. So effectively, his first race in the Great Southern Stars, he ran 3 consecutive seconds, because you run second in the heat, but you're down as actually winning it. He was a unique horse. He was sort of an ungangly sort of horse to watch his action. I've got a picture that I'll put up. He's beautiful when you see a still photo of him, but the way that he got his head down so low, the further the race went, like it was just the way he tried so hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people say to me, did he feel uncomfortable? And you're driving him, it felt like you could have a glass of Coke on his backside and it wouldn't spill, That's how it felt. But, when the chips were down in a race, and I don't know why he did it, but he would just push that head out like, nothing's getting by him, I don't know why he did it, but I guess that was his way of showing you he's giving you his all.
Yeah, and it was, I think the one thing about it, as you said, he stuck his head out. He had a long neck and a long head. He probably gained an unfair advantage over a lot of his rivals by doing it.
Yeah, he probably helped me out there a couple of times too. We had a couple of close wins, and I think his head probably sticking out where it counted. Got the job done for us.
He went to America. Like the one thing, it's interesting. This is more about speeding Spur than promoting it, but the same thing. He went over to America and he competed against the best horses over there and the likes. So as far as service fee goes, if we had a horse from America that come to Australia and won in Australia, people would be jumping through hoops to go to him. How did that make you feel when he went to America? Did you want to go with him? Did you want to campaign him yourself?
Yeah, we had talked about it with Andrew that we didn't want to campaign him. It's just it's very difficult to do. And Andrew had already he had discussions with Linda Toscano that he would like him to go there, and it was never any skin off our nose. We felt that it was the appropriate time to go. And there was always sort of talk of that he had a possible invite to the elite lot, and we did. If that ever come along, we were jumping at the chance. But as I say, going back to his American thing, like when he finished the Road Cup, I think he ran second, and like he was to go to Linda Toscano. So when you're sending a horse like him over there, you do need to be in the top stable and get into their regime of racing, because they're racing, good strong miles, and when you talk to the Americans, they'll tell you that you've got to get used to that hard mile racing, and that's something our horses down under do take a while to get used to when they go up there. It's not just as simple as following them around for a mile. They're running good strong miles, and they can run their first half in 55 and get home just as better. So that. For that reason, I think going to London was a great move, I think.
Were you proud, though, when he won over there?
Yeah, I was. I remember watching his first race. He raced, I'm sure it was Manchego, and he ran about 4th or 5th, and they trotted about 52, and like just probably seeing him at the Meadowlands, that was pretty cool. But when he won the stakes race, I think one ran a 5/8 track, so it'd be something he'd be quite used to getting around. That was pretty cool. I think Brian Sears might have drove him, I think. So, to have those sort of stars around him, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome. It's like what you said at the start. Mum and Dad are in the same paddock. Harness racing is a great story. Like someone pulls you over in the driveway and offers you a yearling, and now we're talking about him. He how many times did he come to Australia? I don't know how many times he would have been on a plane to Australia. It'd be nearly a dozen times at least.
Yeah. Well, I think so. He had. I would say at least a dozen, if not more. He was pretty used to airplanes, but yeah.
And then he goes to America. I mean, he's seen more of the countryside than what I have. I don't know about yourself, but it's a unique journey, isn't it, that a harness racing horse can have? And I'm gathering, by the way you're talking, that his main attribute was the fact of how laconic he was, how everything just sort of fitted into place. He was just always Del Boy, and things never seemed to worry him.
It didn't, and I probably explain it probably a bit better with, over here we're a rugby country, and like you look at your guys like Richie McCaw, they just get out there and they do it, when they're not playing rugby, I suppose they're just in their own way, and when they get back out on the field, it's just game time, and they've got that will to win that, 95% horses don't have. They're just a bit more special. We've all had some nice horses, but then you get ones like this, they're just that much, they tear ahead of them. It's hard to explain to you. It actually sit behind one. The power that they give you, the speed, it's actually quite scary when you're driving them. They're just so powerful, and they're great athletes.
He came back from a setback there at one stage in his career, and I know on social media that you guys put some photos and some videos up, and I might be wrong, but he actually come back quicker than what everyone expected. Like he was pretty much ahead of schedule most of the time in his recovery and getting back to the racetrack.
Yeah, that's right. We probably tell the truth of that, we probably didn't tell the public a lot though. He was doing rehab for quite some time before that, we were a bit lucky really with when he got injured that, Andrew Grierson, he still is a very good vet, and his outfit, Auckland vets, they did a great job with him, Andrew and Catherine Pemberton. So he had a lot of care from the vets, and they told us what we really should be doing. It's quite a cool effort, really. I mean, we don't have a water walker or nothing like that, but there's sort of many days out there we'd put him on the bike and just walk him for half an hour to an hour sometimes, and he wasn't a big fan of it, being a big colt, walking around the other horses. He was getting a bit wound up because he's had a lot of box time, and he was get worrying some days there. You'd look at him, he'd get a bit fired up in the box, but I think when it all came together, we slowly got there and we managed to get him back to the races. It was a great team effort. All the staff around here did a great job of him.
Are you excited about his next journey? I mean, like he's standing at stud now, and I might as well tell everybody, like he's 2,500 for your Kiwis over there, and I think 2,750 for the Aussies over here in Chilled Seaman. But are you excited about the next phase of Del Boy's journey?
Well, I am, because he does deserve that. I think it'll be very interesting. I really think that he's got a good chance of making it at stud. His pedigree is actually pretty good if you go through it. And I think if he can leave him like himself, then he'll make a good stallion. But he really does deserve a good chance, and just hope that he can get some mares behind him, and hopefully he can leave something like himself.
Absolutely, and Mark sent me an email just making sure that they've checked his fertility. Number one, his fertility is extremely fertile, which they're pretty pumped about. I know that on farm they think that's a great sign in a stallion. But the other interesting part is one of the first mares that he's actually been already covered was bred by Terry Foster, and a lot of the Victorians and Australian breeders of trotters will know that Terry Foster's got a pretty good eye for breeding, and it's a ready cash mare. So that gives him a great chance, a great starting point. I'm sure he's got a lot of other quality mares, but the fact that a Victorian breeder is breeding to him with a lot of the incentives that are over here, I think it's a huge push for speeding Spur. Josh, thank you very much. Del Boy is his name, and I appreciate you coming on More Than a Horse. As I said, brought to you by Woodlands, and I appreciate everything you've done. I'd probably we might even do a couple of follow-ups in a year or two once he's got a couple of his foals on the ground. We might be able to pump him up a bit more that way and see how they're going along.
Yeah, definitely. And right, I think in a couple of years' time, hopefully we might have one ourselves bowling around here. So it'd be good to catch up.
Very good. Josh Dickey, More Than a Horse, brought to you by Woodlands Stud, and we've been talking about speeding Spur, mate. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very